Hi everyone, my name is Madison Kai, and today I will be presenting my project on cesspool wastewater in the Alawai watershed. And so before I get started, I'd like to thank my mentor, Dr. Dulai, and my research teacher, Dr. Chan, for guiding me through this project. I want to point out that they spent over 16 hours with me sampling the dirty Alawai, and wow, thank you so much for everything. So now let me introduce to you the title of my project, Quantifying Levels of Carbamazepine and Ethanol Estradiol from Cesspool Leakage in Urban Area Streams on Oahu to Identify Potential Human and Environmental Risks. So what do you think about when you hear the term the Alawai Canal? We all think that it's this dirty, polluted body of water and that it's filled with bacteria and pollutants. When I think about the Alawai Canal, I think about the harm that it may cause our paddlers and kayakers, and I also think about the harm that it could cause native wildlife, like the oopu. But did you know that it may also serve as a sink for cesspool pollutants? Cesspools are used by people who are not connected to the regular sewage system. And essentially, this means that when people use their toilets or showers or wash their hands, this waste gets stored into an underground tank that has perforations. And what happens is that sludge piles at the bottom, while untreated liquid waste expels directly into the surrounding soil, introducing contaminants including anticonvulsants, antibiotics, estrogen hormones, and beta blockers directly into the environment. Oahu actually has nearly 11,300 cesspools, which discharge about 7.5 million gallons of raw sewage into the ground each day. And once cesspool wastewater enters the ground, it has the potential to contaminate groundwater, which can then enter into our streams. Because our school is located in the Alawai watershed, I decided to focus on this particular area outlined in red. And here you can see that there are hundreds of cesspools which surround the Manoa and Palolo streams, which made this an ideal area to sample from. One way we can detect if cesspools are leaking into streams is by sampling for the presence of pharmaceutical tracers. So for my project, I selected two pharmaceutical tracers, carbamazepine and ethanol estradiol, to detect cesspool wastewater. So carbamazepine is an anti-epilepsy drug, and ethanol estradiol is a synthetic estrogen widely used in birth control pills. And now here are the objectives of my project. Is cesspool wastewater leaking into our streams, and can we detect it via pharmaceuticals, carbamazepine and ethanol estradiol, which are unique to human consumption? And 2, if concentrations are detected, how does this potentially impact humans and other organisms? Like I mentioned earlier, the sample site chosen for this study is located in the Manoa-Palolo Drainage Canal. But before I could go in and take samples directly from the water, I had to understand that water in the drainage canal is stratified. So this means that less saline water from Manoa and Palolo streams flows at the surface, while high salinity water from the canal flows at the base. And here you can see a defined gradient which ranges from approximately 3 to 28 parts per thousand of salinity. And so for this project, what I did was on 2 separate days, I sampled over an 8-hour tidal cycle period. And to account for stream stratification, water samples were taken from the 3 sections. So the surface, which is represented by pink, that's stream water. Depth, which is represented by lime green, that's Alawai Canal water. And finally, groundwater, which is mint green. Then salinity was measured to differentiate between stream samples and Alawai Canal samples. And then radon samples were taken to measure the amount of groundwater contribution in the stream. After sampling, we plated the samples individually into enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay kits, also known as ELISA kits, to determine the concentrations of carbamazepine and ethanol estradiol. The ELISA reader determined the concentrations based on the intensity of color, and here you can see a picture of that in the second and third photos. And then finally, radon samples were analyzed using a RAD-7 radon and air monitor to measure the amount of groundwater input in the stream during that period of time. So like I said earlier, sampling occurred on 2 separate days that were about 2 weeks apart. And so I'll start with results from day 1, which occurred on 11/27/2018. And so here are my individual results for this day. Each box represents 1 water sample. And so on the x-axis you have time. This represents the 8-hour time period that we sampled from. And then on the y-axis we have levels of the contaminants that I sampled for carbamazepine and then ethanol estradiol on the second graph. And now finally here is the average concentrations that I've found by averaging the results from that graph and that graph. And so here this shows that carbamazepine and ethanol estradiol are present in all 3 areas of water that I sampled from. So it's present in the stream surface, which means that Manoa and Palolo streams have wastewater presence. It's present in Alawai Canal water, which means that the Alawai also has wastewater. And then finally, groundwater also has wastewater. And what's interesting about this is that you can see here, the Alawai Canal water has carbamazepine levels, which are about 3 times higher than what's contributed by cesspools. And so this just shows that there may be other factors and other things in the Alawai that are causing levels to be higher in this particular area. And now here is day 2, which we took on 12/8/2018. And so for this day, we tried to replicate the first day. However, because it rained consecutively throughout our entire sampling period, this caused like a dramatic dilution of all the concentrations that we sampled for. So here's the average concentrations, and what you can tell is that these concentrations are significantly lower than what I detected on the first day, which shows that rainwater presence dilutes concentrations of ethanol estradiol and carbamazepine. And it verifies the fact that these 2 contaminants are not naturally found in the environment. So because my question was, are cesspools leaking, I wanted to quantify exactly how much leaks into stream water. So here are the total amounts from cesspools. By doing a stream flux calculation, I found that there are approximately 6 pieces of anti-epilepsy drugs entering the canal each day from cesspools, and then for estrogen, there are about 17 pieces of contraceptive pills entering the canal each day. And so while these levels are not harmful to humans, concentrations in this range are known to impact organisms. And so to assess whether these concentrations detected in the Manoa-Palolo drainage canal are harmful to organisms, I compared my results to previous studies, and here they are. So my concentrations are in yellow, and the previous studies are in white. And so for carbamazepine, I'd like to point out that my concentrations are lower than what I read about. But if concentrations are to increase, we could see things like sensitivity to touch and light stimulation, and then the development of cancerous tissue. Okay, but on the other hand, for ethanol estradiol, I found that the highest concentration detected in this study is much higher than what was discovered in previous studies. So for the first one, I'd like to point out tilapias, which are like the main organism found in the Alawai Canal, experienced a significant weight decrease in males. So this means that when exposed to estrogen, males' weight decreased. And again, in like fathead minnows, they saw the feminization of males, and then they also saw a significant decrease in the rate of testicular growth for rainbow trout. So stuff like this could potentially occur in the Alawai, but we need to find out in the future. And so now, just to reiterate what I talked about today, I talked about cesspool wastewater and how you can detect cesspool wastewater in streams using pharmaceutical tracers, carbamazepine and ethanol estradiol. I just spoke about how levels of carbamazepine and ethanol estradiol can harm organisms, and now I'd like to talk about how we can lower levels of carbamazepine and ethanol estradiol in stream water. So to lower concentrations in streams, like namely from cesspools, we can upgrade cesspools. And what this means is that instead of having cesspools, we can switch to the typical sewage system. And actually, there's a $10,000 tax credit for removing cesspools if your cesspool qualifies. And in regards to concentrations of carbamazepine and ethanol estradiol from the ROI directly, to lower those concentrations, we can potentially dredge the ROI. So the Department of Land and Natural Resources has actually proposed to dredge the ROI and the Manoa-Palolo Drainage Canal. So when this occurs, we could probably see a decrease in these two levels. And so what did I learn from my project? Besides the basic organization skills and like just general like learning how to read a paper correctly and whatnot, I learned that it's really important to find a group of like a support group to like help you with your project. Like my period 3 research class really made research like a fun time, and I learned so much from them based on like the projects that they were doing, and I just had like a really great time this year. So thanks, guys. And finally, I'd like to just thank all of the people who helped me with my project once again. Thank you, Dr. Dulai, Dr. Chan, and Trista for helping me with my analysis and sampling. And then I'd like to thank Mr. Tong for helping me with getting papers for my study. And then I'd like to thank my research class and then my parents. Thank you, guys.